Hey everybody, welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast. This is the Artist Alley Aftermath Edition for Wake Forest Comic Con and all the associated activities and things around with it. This is was an interesting weekend for me just because it also involved spending some time with my daughter, who has just moved out of the house and is going to the School of Math and Science in Durham. And so doing a show in Raleigh afforded me a little bit of a chance to actually hang out with my kid and do some things with that. So I went ahead up to Raleigh, or Wake Forest, the night before the show. Normally this is only a 2-hour drive and I wouldn't get in a hotel, but I knew that I was going to have some late nights and wanted to try and moderately be functional and aware of everything. So I didn't try and just cram it into a small time, but I got to see my daughter, got to hang out, but that's not what you're here for. So I'm just going to keep going, but good experiences there. Wake Forest Comic Con is a smaller show, but not a bad small show. It's in a Renaissance Center in Wake Forest, just a block or two from Southeastern Theological Seminary. And so it's usually got a fair amount of people there who are theologically inclined, which makes life fun and interesting. Because it's always cool to talk to people who are actually ministry minded and in that capacity. Granted, that's not what Faith and Fandom is for all in itself. We are here to help edify those who are already ministry minded, but I don't mind people who don't like Jesus too. So went to the show, and honestly it was pretty quiet, chill day. I did a lot of drawing. I think I drew 90% of the time. I did some cool stuff, did some Pokemon, I did a Robin from One Piece that I've struggled with because her design is so weird and it's hard to do. But I did some cool designs I was pretty happy with. I had some good interactions with people. One in particular, young Mr. Bowman from the Leah Bowman lineage came to visit me. Leah Bowman is one of my long-term supportive Faith and Fandom friends, and it's not my place to tell her whole story or anything, but she's been going through a lot medically and physically, and her son came by to say hi on her behalf and that she wished she could be there. And so I was able to send a bag of goodies and such home with her, which was nice, and to be able to do that. And I also just got to talk to some folks that were from the seminary, which was cool. One of my favorite things I saw is that there was a young lady that wore a shirt that said artist, and her boyfriend or husband, I didn't actually ask, and I cut the hands out of the photo at this point by accident. Her significant other was wearing a shirt that says Booth Babe. And I love that. I think that's fun. I think that's super cute. Were I in a place where was in a relationship where someone actually was doing something like that, I would totally rock that shirt to be supportive or to be supported by. So I think that's pretty neat, and it was cool to see them do that. One big highlight of the show is that Ryan Scheffler, who does Schefflonius Studios or The Art of Ryan Scheffler, Jeff the Yeti comics, he did a con exclusive print of the show that had 3 kids reading, and one of the books they were reading was Faith and Fandom, and that's just kind of amazing to me, and I was really appreciative that he took the time to include Faith and Fandom in this, and which is neat because if you look in the background of this photo, there's a Dragonite poster of Ryan's, there's a Miles Morales poster, there's an Invader Zim poster, there's a Dead Man poster. So he actually worked his own artwork into the background of the photos. It was neat. I really thought it was cool, and so it was just a good experience to be there with that. one good interaction that I previously forgot to mention, so I'm inserting this. There was a lady that came through, and she stopped and really took a shining to, can I still wear my cape? And I started talking to her about it, and told her the heart of why we do Faith and Fandom, and she started tearing up. And she started asking me if I lived around there. Apparently, she's a political figure, and if I lived around there, she wanted me to kind of get involved and be a part of that. But I don't, so I'm not. But we had a really good interaction with that, and it was pretty cool. She was really sweet and touching, and yeah, it was really nice. Also, when I was setting up, the Billingshurst folks, the folks that do the children's area, were asking me about Lumberton because they drove through and were like, what even is there? And I told them there's nothing, and it's just weird. Um, Also, there were no dice at this show, none. Normally, when I give away Pokemon cards, I let kids roll a dice and see what they roll, and I give them that many cards. And I could not find my dice because it was in one of my boxes, and I didn't want to have to dig under the table because the space was wonky with neighbors and such. And so went around and looked, and there was not a single D20 for sale at this entire event. And that, to me, ladies and gentlemen, is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. I got to see some folks that I see from other shows, and it really was just kind of a quiet day. Not a bad way or anything like that. It was pretty chill. I'm gonna look through some of the con photos themselves, but they always put on a good show, and it's affordable. It's a 1-day show. It's in and out. One thing is they had a whole group of Inside Out cosplayers. There was an Asterion from Baldur's Gate 3 that did a good job. Yeah, there's just a lot of solid cosplays, a lot of solid work with that. And Aqua Turtle cosplay was there as an Umbreon hosting the event, which was pretty cool. There's also an owl in the room, which is fun. And Addie Billingshurst and the group from First Church, I'm going to say their name wrong, but Addie Billingshurst and her family and church family ran the kids area as a ministry outreach, and they just do an awesome job with that, and they just killed it. And they've been doing that every year I've been there, and it's just amazing to see how they've been growing it and how they've accomplished it. Yeah, it's just been pretty cool. There was Boland Art Studio was there. Gene Shanks was there in terms of artists. Some people I've connected with. Brian Wingrove was there. And so there's a lot of folks who take the time to do this show, and I'm grateful and appreciative to be a part of it. Two of the folks who were there at the show are going to be at my mini-con, or three of them. Ryan Scheffler is going to be there as well. But Corridor 6 Comics and Goblin Horde Comics and Collectibles are both going to be at the show. And I was talking to Corridor 6 guy, and Corridor 6, the dude's literally driving from Charleston to come do the show. And I asked him, why are you going to drive 3 hours to come do my little church show? And he said, that he had heard how we treated people, and that was worth going to it for him. And I was like, you know what? I'll take that. That's a win all day long. There was a lot of cool statues and stuff nearby. No Senshi from Delicious in Dungeon, but I did see a Marcel statue, and that was pretty cool. And the kids area just had a lot of neat stuff. I was able to do some giveaways for some people and to give away some of the free God is a Fan of You stickers, which went really well, and just pretty encouraging with the reception of things overall. One of my friends hung out at the booth for a while too, and I got to talk to them, and it's somebody that's never really been at my booth. So it was neat to have that experience as well and to be able to be an encouragement. And I think it was a good perspective for them as well. Something awkward / uncomfortable-ish happened, but I don't know that I should put it on the podcast. So if you're one of the people that like diligently listen to these things and you want to know, we can talk later. But I don't know that I want to be on record for this, and I don't think that it would necessarily be edifying for the whole world to hear this. But there was something awkward that happened that day that, yeah, it was funky. And it's nothing to do with how the show was run. It wasn't anything to do with how they were doing things. It was just, you put people in places and stuff generally happens. There were not any food trucks this year, so I ended up getting food from the bowling alley next door and just got some loaded fries. I didn't eat too heavily because I was going to eat dinner with my daughter right after the show. But yeah, it was neat. I didn't really buy much personally or anything like that. I did get a copy of the print from Ryan Scheffler, and also took the time while I was sitting there, because this convention center has free Wi-Fi, to update some of the stuff from my Comic-Con for a little bit as well, coming up, because it's only 2.5 weeks away at this point. But yeah, it wasn't like a dramatically over-the-top show. It wasn't anything of like crazy interactions. It was good. It was consistent. It was encouraging. And that was about it. I know this is a short podcast. I don't have a ton to say past that. It's a show I will continually do if I get the chance. They treat us well, and it's pretty cut and dry. So yeah, no major reports there, which is kind of nice because there's a lot going on back and forth of shows and events coming up. So I'll take a nice little layup every now and again. That doesn't involve me having to go through drama or frustration or hurt feelings or anything like that. Yeah. So do want to take a moment and say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. You're going to get lots of shout outs in the near future-ish. But David Brooks, Jeff Weimer, Colin Sproles, Jamie Montgomery, the Coleman family, Jonathan Herman, Ron Petit, Gear Saber Cosplay, Scott Ward, Alicia Glenn, Candace Davis, Jay Sheed, Jason Crutchfield, Mike Perna, Todd Turner, John Jacobs, Zach Harris, Caleb Grimm, Jeanette Skaggs, Jason Bullock, Christina Ray, Sarah Lewis, Patrick Gale, Rebecca Godlove, and Adam Davis. Thank you all for being amazing. Thank you for being encouraging. Yeah. I'm grateful I get to do the things that I do and to be able to have these opportunities. And even when things aren't super eventful, it's still good days. To be able to say, this is what I'm doing in terms of ministry and things of that nature. So it was a good day. This upcoming Friday, I'm going to be at the Nerd Market in downtown Fayetteville. The following week, I'm going to be at Havelock for Brothers Boyd, Friends of Brothers Boyd Comic-Con. The week after that, I'll be at Vertical Minicon, which is September 7th. And I just added, here is one thing that happened. When new shows happen, I'm always nervous, especially in the mountain areas, Asheville and Boone, because I've had negative responses to Faith and Fandom from showrunners. And so it makes me nervous-ish. And so there's a new Boone Comic-Con that is coming on October 5th, and I was nervous about applying. Like, I literally started the application and stopped at one point. But the showrunner was there at the show, and she was going around handing out flyers saying they still needed vendors and artists. And so I brought her over to my table. I said, hey, look, this is what I do. Is it cool if I apply to your show? And she's like, absolutely, yes. And she actually referenced some of my associates that do like the Gospel Man comics and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Didn't want to make it awkward or uncomfortable for you. And then, it's weird. Normally I don't have a lot of hesitation, but for some reason that show had me like in my concerns. So I've already applied to that one. And I did apply to Fayetteville Comic Con because it is being billed as their last show, and to see where that goes with that. So yeah, lots of stuff coming up. So I hope to see you at a con soon. Oh, I also gave out some Pokemon cards at this show. Shout out to Ben, who donated the Pokemon cards that I'm currently giving out, or probably will be giving out for a long while. Thank you for that, because you made some kids' days for real, for real. But thank y'all for taking the time to listen, and I hope to see you at a con soon.